Good morning. Hi, Bill. I would love to say it's a great summer day, but we're back to the gloom here in Colorado, and we don't know for how long, but we are up and at 'em. With somebody who brightens my day every day, not every day, I don't get to speak to him, but with his new website and all the fun things is Bill St. John. Pal for how many years now?
Oh my gosh, probably 50 years almost.
Oh, God. And we're
Well,
still,
let's say 40 for sure.
no, I bet you it is. You know, who knows? But we've been around for a long time.
Yes, have been around.
Well, tell people a little bit because you have a great background.
Well, I've been writing about food and cooking and wine and food and wine for close to 40 years now, starting in 1983 at the Rocky Mountain News, which is sadly defunct. Um, and also the Denver Post, lots of magazines around town, and also I did 12 years of work with Channel 4, KCNC TV, and mostly on food, restaurants. As you know, I was a restaurant reviewer for 17 years.
And a
So
great one.
I saw you on the street a lot during those days.
You're
And
doing it.
yeah, really, we were we were on the pavement
That
going to
does
different
not
restaurants.
sound.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm a Denver native. My mother was from Belgium, so she helped Europeanize our dinner table, and that's where I got a lot of my inspiration for writing about food and learning about wine from my father. And traveled a great deal over the world to learn more about food and food production and raising of animals and chefing. And I've just translated all that into my columns for. I've written close to 5,000 different columns on wine, food, restaurants, and chefs and cooking. And so I spent most of my adult life talking about food in its many guises. And now I'm pretty much semi-retired, but I did establish a website called billstjohn.com, which is the title of which is Get Cooking with Bill St. John. And it's kind of a play on the words. It's educational in the sense that you can get cooking, you can learn about cooking on that website, and but also it's exhortative is get cooking. Let's get cooking. So I encourage people to cook for themselves, cook for their friends and family using that website. So anyway, that's a little bit about my background.
And it's really fun. You were a great critic when you did that. And well, we still sort of, I guess, all our lives, or whether you're a critic, quote or not, you're a critic when you go out to eat every night
Yeah.
anyway. And uh, I went out with my grandson last night, and we had very different critiques of the same restaurant. But that's another story for the day. In the meantime, I have always adored it. And the column, I mean, you can get to anything. You can get to wine on it. Like this week, it was because of Lent or featured.
Right. I tried to get people, and I wanted to teach people how to cook fish, which is something I've had to learn. Which is
Okay, I'm terrible. Well, I cook salmon. Fine. Past that, I'm a goner.
well, I've had to learn myself, how to cook mussels, how to cook codfish, whitefish, and salmon. Of course, is kind of easy to cook, which I find because of its high fat content. You can ruin it. You can ruin any kind of fish, or you can ruin any kind of dish by overcooking or not cooking properly. But I had to learn how to cook fish, and I passed some of those informations off to my people. It's on my homepage. There's a whole business about how to cook fish and different recipes for cooking fish as well.
No, it's really fun. And you like with spring and summer, you'll and even I asked you to find out about artichokes.
Right.
Like, why would somebody take the first artichoke?
Yeah. Well, that was an interesting quest. When you take a look at the modern artichoke, why would anybody go through this kind of porcupine like plant and eat it? or where to eat, what parts to eat of it. The history of that is that people ate baby artichokes whole. Um, they were called cardoons, or they were a member of the cardoon family. And only later did they allow them to grow larger and develop a taste for the heart and the base of the leaves. But that was a question of many, many hundreds of years of development of an interest in that plant. But the first people to first eat artichokes were scavengers along the Mediterranean Sea, and they would eat these little baby artichokes that were like a wild grass more than anything else. And
Hmm.
they ate it whole. There weren't these spines or needles on them the way they are when they're older and more mature. So um, that developed over a long, long period of time until we have what we know as eating the artichokes today. You can get small baby artichokes and cook them whole. There's a famous tradition in Jewish cooking in Italy
Wow.
of cooking whole artichokes and eating them whole before the choke develops.
Yeah, but
And
where do you find them?
well, in this part of the world, you'd have to find them at a farmer's market, and you can do so in the summertime, but not they're not commercially available like at Whole Foods even or Sprouts, which have generally good vegetable sales. You can't even get them at a huge vegetable market like H Mart, but you can get them at the Boulder's Farmers Market. I've seen some from Josh Olson's farm. The name of which I forget right now, but you can get baby artichokes in the summertime at the farmers markets.
Wow, because I've never seen. I mean, I know them and I had them. They're fabulous, but I haven't seen them around. I would probably be afraid to cook them anyway. I could ruin anything, even though I used to cook. But and now people keep talking, and I bet fruits and vegetables that are not ordinary, that people don't go for, that probably are delicious. I've heard.
Well,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I have liked it, and I've enjoyed going to these markets, the Asian markets, especially like the one I talk about most of is H Mart over on Parker Road is the one I use. There's also one on North Sheridan Boulevard up in the Westminster area, and you can find very, very interesting fruits and vegetables there that we don't commonly eat. Um, in using markets like Safeway and King Soopers and Sprouts even and Whole Foods, but many different kinds of green vegetables, for example, different kinds of broccolis and leafy greens, um, and then they have different kinds of fruits. Buddha's hand, which is a really strange yellow fruit that looks like a hand.
Huh.
Um, Different dragon fruits, different um, tropical fruits. Of course, there's papaya and pineapple and so forth, but you can get different kinds of fruits and vegetables at these markets. They cater to a larger clientele than the traditional markets, and those things are available year round because they bring them in from places like Africa, different kinds of yams and root vegetables, and Asia, different kinds of greens, or from farms that are run by Asian people in California and Arizona.
Wow. Well, I mean, and then there's a world of things. It's interesting. Potatoes. There's so
Oh, yeah.
many kinds.
There are, in fact, thousands of different varieties of potatoes worldwide. If you go to markets in South America, you can find dozens and dozens of different colored potatoes and sizes of potatoes and shapes of potatoes. We were unfamiliar with that, but you can get a larger variety of potatoes at market and even regular markets. I know, for example, there's a well-known farm here in Colorado called Strohauer Farms, and they make beautiful little fingerling potatoes of many different colors. So, yes, you can get many different kinds of potatoes now, more than when I was growing up in the 50s and 60s. There's certainly a lot more than just russet potatoes available.
Right. Well, it's fun because you, with me and other friend, have lately gone to old restaurants for things, and it's interesting now because it used to be mashed potatoes. I'm not a fan of mashed potatoes. I think they're boring, even if they have butter. But some of these other potatoes that are around, well, even the baked potato at Bull and Bush, I mean, that was unbelievable.
Yeah,
And if you cook them right, they're delicious.
they could be a whole meal. Of course, Wendy's came up with that idea for fast food, and but a whole russet potato, well baked and dressed, is a really delicious meal.
There's a story for you.
Well, actually, that is a good idea. Thank you for giving me one more.
Oh no, I mean, we were in another restaurant where the baked potato was horrible. Yeah, I mean, and there's nothing better than a crispy outside baked, and the skin's the best part.
The skin is the best part for me. Yes, exactly. I agree with you there. You can't, I mean, it's proof positive that you can ruin anything, even very simple things, by not cooking it properly or not cooking it well enough, or long enough. Um, there was a really nice little article in the New York Times recently about three different ways to dress baked potatoes, and
Oh, really?
in their recipe in their cooking section. Yeah, and it was instructive to read. Some simple. I like a baked potato with olive oil and butter, and not with any kind of cream thing. No sour cream,
No, I'm
but
on your side. That's
and
all.
olive oil and butter and some really nice grainy salt. It's just a wonderful. Some pepper is a wonderful baked potato for me.
No, I'm on your side. I don't mind if you add green chilies and hot sauce, but I am not for sour cream and that stuff particularly.
And others are. They enjoy it that way. So
Oh, God bless him. That's great. Another thing that I've seen on menus I'll ask you about, I have no idea of how I know how I've eaten it, but how I would cook it is hamachi collar. Are you
how much
familiar
you
with
what?
collar?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with that myself.
Well, then I'm going to take you to a place and show you hamachi collar.
Okay.
It's the collar of the thing and it's full of meat, yellowtail.
Ah, cool.
And I saw it in one restaurant for $40. And I was at a little sushi place on East Colfax called Jet, and they had it for $12.95. That was just delicious.
Great. No, that's cool.
We will have a date and
All
go.
right.
A great
Promise
place.
that's good.
And the other thing I'm going to ask you about is the famous I have not had chicken.
Oh,
Where-
yeah. Well, it's an old Roman recipe that was developed. Well, developed is maybe the wrong word, but it was the way that the Roman soldiers, the Roman centurions, used to cook their chicken on the march, under a brick, a very hot, uh, on a really hot surface, which was in their case a kind of a clay pot that was overturned with embers underneath it, and then they would put the chicken, which they had spatchcocked. That means take out the backbone and flattened. Maybe they had marinated it or flavored it with different herbs and um, um, some salt, perhaps. Salt come this the word salary comes from salt. They were paid in salt,
Oh,
um, in many respects. That was their pay, and then they would put the chicken on this hot surface and put a brick on top of it, which would flatten it and start searing one side, evenly, and they would flip it over and sear the other side and put the brick on top. It's called chicken alla mattone, which is the Italian words for chicken under a brick. And yeah, I promised to make that for you and our friend John, and I will do that one of these days. He says it's the best chicken he's ever eaten, and
I keep it, and I've had brick chicken. Some are fabulous. Some that's another recipe you want to put up.
the chicken under the brick.
Yeah,
It's there. It's on my website. You can find it.
well, I'd rather eat it at your house. That's
Yeah, that's right.
being that I don't cook much. Do you have to cook it outside?
No, cook it inside in a wrought iron skillet, um,
Well, that takes care of me.
cast iron skillet, Yeah, with the bricks are they're covered with heavy aluminum foil, so they're not a raw brick. So you can actually buy a matone in a specialty food store. So you can search online for it, Mattone, which is they make little kits for cooking it this way. If you like to get that done.
Wow. Okay, well, you know what? This whole conversation we're having is just, to me, the impetus to be part of joining your website. It comes out every Wednesday, and you're a mass of information of everything we've talked about. Plus, if people ask, you do send recipes and reply.
Sure. Or I give them the URL for the recipe that's already posted. Try to help them with their cooking. I just did that yesterday with a person for two or three recipes that she wanted me to talk about, and I did. One thing about my site that I'm really proud of is that if you go to the wine section, it's really almost everything you would ever need to know about wine, basic information. I have it's like a book, online book for people who might be interested in learning more about wine. I cover all the major grape varieties individually. I cover the different kinds of wines that are made, sparkling wines, sweet wines, red wines, how pink wine is made, and so forth and so on. And then I cover many, many different places, many dozens of different places around the world where grapes are grown and made into wine. So I'm really proud of that. My website basically is a way for me to accumulate many of the hundreds of articles that I've written over the past 40 years in one spot. So people don't have to search for, if they're interested in searching for things at the denverpost.com or any other website. I wrote for the Chicago Tribune for 14 years, for example. Well, 8 years. I was living in Chicago for 14 years. I wrote for the Tribune for 8 years, but I've accumulated a lot of these, hundreds of these articles and pieces on my website, billstjohn.com. And the wine section is illustrative of that. These are articles I've written for newspapers in the past, and they cover all the things I just talked about on wine. And it's really literally like a book that a person can utilize to teach him or herself about um, wine. It's really a part of the site that I'm very, very proud of.
Okay, and also you should be proud of when you do history. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
because I think that's amazing.
I love the history of food, and it's fascinating for me to trace the history of, say, the tomato or of corn or potatoes themselves, chicken, the pig. And I've written a lot about the different histories of food. I just pointed out recently that Colorado was a very, very well-known place for eating oysters of all places in the United States, inland. We had a lot of oyster houses here in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and even downtown Denver was famous for its oysters, which were shipped here by rail. This was prior to DIA, which is the sixth busiest airport in the world. DIA is like a harbor now, where you can get fish that is flown in overnight that is just as fresh here as it is on the coast from where it was captured the day before or the hours before. So um, we're mimicking that availability of fresh seafood when we had oysters here that were shipped by rail in big boxcars in big barrels with sawdust and ice, and eaten here rather lovingly by many, many people in the Colorado area.
So, well, all in all, seriously, I love having you on. Well, we've learned lots today, which I do every week, but even each day as we just pick up a thing and talk about it, people are just finding out more and more. So before we leave, tell everybody again how to get to this.
Well, the website is billstjohn.com, billstjohn.com. And once you get there, you can see on the homepage the this week's newsletter. You can sign up for the newsletter in the lower right section of the page, but you can also see on the top all the different areas that I write about, recipes, different ingredients. I go into lots of development of different ingredients, the history of food, many different foods, my wine section, And if you have questions that you want to have answered, just ask Bill in that section about something. Like somebody wrote me a question the other day, like, what do I do with this half-filled bottle of fish sauce? Because it's still usable. And so just the website is billstjohn.com.
And it's great. So are you. I
Well,
need to
thanks.
show you hibachi collar. You need to do chicken. And for everybody who is watching, please like and subscribe to the Gabb, Gabb/Gabby Gourmet on YouTube. It's just Gabby Gourmet on Facebook, Instagram, and you can find out everything. Well, go to Bill St. John for that and adventures with him sometimes and John Hinman, lots of fun with the guys and girl, any age group you like. We're now looking for old places to visit in Denver, which has been a blast.
Yep.
And it's always fun. Love to, you could even join us. In the meantime, have a great weekend. Love you, Bill. Take
Thanks,
care.
Pat. Love you
And
too.
talk to you soon. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great weekend. Much love.
Ciao.
Bye.